On my right is Mr. Antonio Vasquez, and also joining us this morning is the Controller, State Controller Betty Yee. If you're able, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance by rising and placing your right hand over your heart. Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning. This meeting is officially called to order. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Good morning. Chair Cone. Chair Cone.
Good morning. Present.
Vice Chair Schaefer. Member Gaines. Member Vasquez.
Present.
Controller Yee.
Here. A quorum is present. Thank you very much. I will begin with opening remarks, and I'll turn to my colleague, Mr. Gaines.
Okay, I think I've got that on. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to just recognize a couple of important issues here. The first is a sad note having to do with the passing of Senator Bob Dutton, who I had the pleasure of serving with in the Senate. He was the Senate Republican leader when I was elected into the Senate, and he was just such a genteel, kind, fair-minded individual. He's kind of a, what would I say, a politician, kind of old school, where he could get along with folks. It didn't matter what party you were from, but he was always solution-oriented and trying to figure out how we could solve problems for our constituents. And I really enjoyed getting to know him because he then became the county assessor in San Bernardino. And I had the opportunity to visit him throughout my first term, most recently in April. And he was very jovial and happy and looked very healthy at the time, so it's a shock to me that he's passed away. But he left a great legacy, and he served in the same way at the local level as county assessor. He was always looking to try to figure out how to simplify the processes within the county assessor's office, how to make things easier for his constituents. And so I'll always have a warm spot in my heart for Senator Bob Dutton, and also County Assessor Dutton. Secondly, on a brighter note, I just wanted to recognize the amazing talents and success of our American athletes who recently competed in the World Athletic Championships in Eugene, Oregon, track and field. Team USA composed of athletes from all over the United States, and also athletes from all around the world, from different racial, ethnic, and social economic backgrounds, won a total of 33 medals. Team USA won more medals than any other country in the competition, and more than any single country has ever won at the World Championships. This includes 13 gold medals. It was also the first time that the championships had been in the United States, and I don't know if you're familiar with what's happened in Eugene, Oregon, but they've got a beautiful world-class track facility that I think was largely funded by Nike, Phil Knight. I think that's where I believe he's an alumni, and that's kind of where Nike shoes got started. But a beautiful facility. When we take a look at the events that occurred, the 400 relays were incredible. Noah Lyles broke the 26-year-old record for the 200. Sidney McLaughlin, who's just an incredible athlete and has a great heart also, smashed the world record in the 400 hurdles. She's done that, I believe, it's either 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years, and she's only 23. So I think we've got great opportunities in the future. But just an incredible display of our athletes from start to finish. the United States looks to be in a dominant position heading into the next Olympics, and just wanted to say how proud we all are of our great athletes and what lies in the future for track and field. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for that acknowledgement. I had a chance to watch some of the highlights, and that's Sydney McLaughlin is fire.
Amazing.
She is
Amazing.
an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Colleagues, are there any other comments that you'd like to? Okay. Let me recognize the chair, and we'll get down on this end. Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Bob Dutton was in my District 4 in San Bernardino County, and he was always jovial and happy and enthusiastic when I saw him. He's married for 40 years. He has a daughter, Kara, that is well respected. But what's most interesting, at age 71, he still has mom and dad. Very few of us seniors, can say that. He was on the city council, Rancho Cucamonga, as his first political career, and I'm very sad to have heard of his loss, and I can thank my colleague Ted for starting that as the most important note of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the controller, then we'll go to you, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I also just wanted to add my note of condolence around the passing of Senator Dutton. Member Gaines, you described him aptly. He was an old-school legislator who really knew how to work on a bipartisan basis and really enjoyed the time that I had, an opportunity that I had to work with him on a variety of issues. And so deepest condolences to his family over his passing. I also wanted to just acknowledge our firefighters who continue to be challenged by the Oak Fire in Mariposa County. It's the containment will take a while, but it's been now starting to threaten homes, and just want to keep the thoughts of everyone in Mariposa County close. They've done just a valiant effort throughout this fire season already, saving some old growth sequoias in the past weeks, but now with homes and lives in the line of jeopardy, I know that their work will become much more challenging. So just keeping them in our thoughts, and obviously the Board of Equalization will be working with our assessors, and will be providing whatever extended service to really assist those who are affected by the fire. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course, thank you. Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you. Good morning. I also just wanted to add my condolences to the Dutton family. You know, he's actually San Bernardino, both myself and their vice chair kind of split that county, and I had an opportunity to meet him first time when I first got elected in 2018, and he was nothing but a gem. Actually, he's one of the assessors that's actually the assessor, the recorder, and the clerk. Very efficient in his operations. He walked me through, and I heard nothing but good things about him. And as I interacted with him over these last 4 years, he proved to be very efficient. And like I think the Senator mentioned, whenever you asked him a question, he was very quick to respond or to get back to you if he didn't have the answer. So my condolences also go out to his daughter, his wife, Andrea Gillian Dutton, and then we just mentioned his dad, Ted Dutton. You know, he was fortunate enough to still have his dad around. So, but I just wanted to chime in also to the Dutton family, my condolences.
Absolutely. All right, well, we could close the board meeting out in honor of Senator Dutton, if you don't mind, Mr. Gaines. Is that acceptable to you? All right, we will do that at the end of this meeting. But before that, we have a lot of meeting and a lot of things ahead of us. Ms. Cicchetti, I'm excited to do this work. Could you please call the first order of business?
Our first order of business is an announcement regarding public safety and boardroom procedure. Good morning, Madam Chair and members. I'd like to remind the audience to silence your cell phones and other wireless devices. The current COVID-19 guidelines and procedures for the Board of Equalization require that all BOE employees must wear a mask while inside BOE facility or while attending a BOE event. You may remove your mask when you're presenting before the board as a speaker when sitting at the table. masks, and hand sanitizer are available to all and can be found at the back of the auditorium. To speak before the board in person, please complete and submit to the clerk a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice, and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. After the presentation of an item on the agenda has concluded, we will identify any public comments, requests that we have received by our board proceeding staff in the auditorium. Then we will identify any public comments with the AT&T operator. Then we will read any public comments received in writing in advance of today's meeting. You may approach the table when your name is called upon to make a public comment. If you intend to make a public comment today using the AT&T operator, we recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line, as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay. When giving a public comment, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Okay. Is there another item?
Our first item for today
Thank you.
is AA1, fiscal year 2022-23 private railroad car tax rate. Report on the tax rate applicable to the 2022-23 private railroad car tax assessment. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. This matter will be presented by Mr. McCool and Ms. DiNapoli.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Cohen, Vice Chair Schaefer, and honorable members. My name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties. With me today is Ms. Pamela DiNapoli, Manager of our Field Appraisal and Board Roll Production Unit. Ms. DiNapoli and I will be available to answer any questions for the private railroad car and state-assessed items on the agenda this morning. I'm here today to report on this year's private railroad car tax rate. This year's rate is 1.155%, which is down slightly from last year's 1.156%. The rate is computed annually by the Board's Legislative Research and Statistics Division under the provisions of Revenue and Taxation Code 11403. This code section states that the Board shall annually compute the average rate of general property taxation in the state. The rate is approved annually by BOE's Executive Director and reported to the Board at the July Board meeting for informational purposes. The approved tax rate is applied by the State Assessed Properties Division to the annual private railroad car assessed values. The private railroad car assessed values multiplied by this approved rate will equate to the amount of tax due for each private railroad car assessee. Once again, members, this item is for informational purposes only and does not require any board action. That concludes the report on the 2022 private railroad car tax rate. Ms. DiNapoli and I are available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Pretty straightforward. Yeah, no questions.
We have a written comment on this, but we'll go to the AT&T moderator first to see if we have anyone in the public who would like to make a statement. AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding the 2022-23 private railroad car tax rate.
We have none in queue. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to queue up for a question, press 10. Operator will gather you in place here. And at this time, we have nobody still in queue.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's continue.
Yeah, I'm going to read the public comment that received, and came in on our meeting info email this morning. It's from Jamie Shepard. Agenda item AA1. Comment: the tax rates for private rail cars are indefensibly low. It looks like they're getting a nearly free pass with 1% rates. The revenue generated for the state treasurer is so small in comparison to other revenue streams that this body doesn't set. that it's laughable so much time and energy goes into this one agenda item. For all that went into preparing these rates, you might as well triple them. That's 3% you'd bring in 3 times as much revenue. The public wouldn't notice. I'm probably one of the only comments, and you would eliminate the appearance of private rail cars getting a sweetheart deal. The infrastructure on which the cars travel may have been privately built, but the right-of-way through which they travel is public, and the nuisance of their excessive noise and the pollution from their locomotives is publicly felt. Furthermore, there should be an additional tax on refurbished Pullman luxury cars used for private transport because their existence is only due to excess consumption rather than economical need. And, as a matter of good public policy, luxury items should have an extra tax on their value for the revenue it would generate without materially affecting the market for these items. Billionaires will still buy refurbished Pullmans even with an annual 5% tax.
Thank you. Let's continue.
The next item is AA2, adoption of the 2022 private rail car roll. Staff recommends for the lean year 2022 assessment of private railroad cars under the provisions of the private railroad car tax law. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. This matter will be presented by Mr. McCool and Ms. DiNapoli.
Good morning again, Chair Cohen and honorable members. For the record, my name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division, along with Ms. Pamela DiNapoli from our division as well. I'm here today to present for your consideration and adoption the 2022 Private Railroad Car Assessment Roll. Before you is a report entitled the 2022 Recommendation for Assessment of Private Railroad Cars. This report represents staff's recommendation for the lien date 2022 assessment of private railroad cars under the provisions of the private railroad car tax law. This year's total recommended assessed value is just over $845 million. Upon adoption of staff's recommendation, the State Assessed Properties Division will prepare the 2022 private railroad car tax bills and send them to the appropriate private railroad car taxpayers by the required statutory date of October 15th. The tax is due by December 10th, and the tax collected is deposited into the state's general fund. I ask for your adoption of the roll, and Ms. DiNapoli and I are available should you have any questions. Thank you.
I have a concern over the taxpayer input that we just received on the 1% rate being too low. I'm speaking up for fundamental fairness on all things, and I would just like to know
If you have an observation as to the presentation we just received, if this is not the right time to inquire, when would that be? I don't want to go home tonight without making a note that there was a very appropriate input this morning that needs to be evaluated from our end.
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Schaefer. It's the manner in which the board staff calculates the annual rate is following statutory provisions. It's just an average computation of the statewide tax rate. To change the rate would require a change in the legislation.
So this gentleman should be speaking also to his legislator.
Perhaps that might be the best course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Controller Yee.
Member Schaefer, Mr. McCool is right. These are statutory provisions, which is why the calculation is kind of a ministerial act every year. But it's also, I think, isn't it also kind of contained by the Federal 4R Act as well?
That is a component as well,
Yeah,
correct?
so it's both federal and state law that kind of guides the
Thank you,
rate setting.
Controller.
All right, let's go to public comment. Is there any?
Yes, AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, to make comment over the phone, press 10, please. And at this time, we have no callers in queue.
Thank you.
All right. Let's keep going.
We need to make a motion on this item.
Oh, my apologies, absolutely.
Madam
Let's make a
Chair,
motion on the,
I'll move adoption.
all right, thank you. A motion is been made by Controller Betty
I'll
Yee.
second.
And a second to that motion has been made by Mr. Vasquez. Please call the roll.
The motion is to adopt the recommendation of the lien date 2022 assessment of private railroad car roll. Excuse me. Chair Cohen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schaefer?
Aye.
Member Gaines?
Aye.
Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Controller Yee?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
The next item is AA3, adoption of the 2022 state assessed property roll. Staff recommendation on the allocations of the unitary values adopted by the board in May 2022, plus adjustments based on prior board action and staff recommended non-unitary values. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function. This matter is being presented by Mr. McCool and Ms. DiNapoli.
Good morning again, Chair Cohen and honorable members. Just for the record, Jack McCool, State Assessed Properties Division, as well as Pamela DiNapoli. I'm here to present for your consideration and adoption the 2022 State Assessed Property Roll. Before you is a report entitled the 2022 Recommendation for Assessment of State Assessed Property. This recommendation reflects the unitary values adopted by the board on May 24th, 2022, along with the adjustments to the roll based on prior board actions, as well as staff recommended non-unitary values. This year's state assessed roll totals approximately $133 billion of assessed value, $133 billion of assessed value. As additional information for the public audience, I want to highlight that the main difference between this item currently before the board and the board's adoption of the state assessed unitary values in May is that today's recommendation includes the allocation of the unitary values adopted in May to the appropriate counties in which the specific property is located. In other words, the board adopted total values for each assessee in May, and today I am requesting the board approve how those values are allocated to the state's 58 counties. Our staff relies primarily on assessee reporting as the basis for our allocation of the adopted assessed values to each county. Upon adoption of these recommendations, State Assessed Properties Division staff will transmit the allocated assessments to the 58 counties so that the counties may generate tax bills and collect the property tax. I ask for your adoption of the roll, and Ms. DiNapoli and I are available if you have any questions. Thank
All
you.
right. Let me see, any questions? Controller Yee?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. McCool, for the clarification. So you are asking for the allocation of what we had adopted in May to the counties, and then also, in addition, today, the adoption of the non-unitary property of state assessees, right?
Correct.
Okay. Could you maybe just provide, as a clarification, an example of some of the non-unitary property? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Controller Yee. The non-unitary property values represent roughly 1% of the total state assessed roll. They're typically vacant land parcels that may have at one point been intended for use in the company's operations, but for a variety of reasons is no longer considered to be part of their essential operations. In most cases, it's unused vacant land that they no longer have plans for.
And is that mostly real property? Or is it other?
Recently looked at the total numbers, and it is well over half is real property,
Okay.
correct?
All right. No, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Vasquez.
The controller kind of hit on my question, but just to take it a step further, you mentioned that there's several vacant parcels now that they don't intend to use. Do we happen to know what that number is?
I believe we have just under 40,000 total state assessed land parcels currently assessed by our department. Of that I believe it's 38 or 39,000, just over 8,000 are classified as non-unitary property.
8,000, okay. And those are spread out throughout the state, I'm assuming?
Correct. They're all various sizes and stages of, the majority are of odd shape, irregular shape, limited access. That's the majority of them.
So any kind of adaptive reuse might be difficult because of their locale, and like you mentioned, their odd sizes, and I imagine their embankments is, up against some of the railroads, right?
Correct. Especially when it comes to the non-unitary railroad properties, most of them it would be difficult to repurpose for a different use. Correct.
Thank you.
All right, any questions down here? Comments? No, none? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's, Ms. Cicchetti, let's go to some public comment.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, to make a public comment, press 10, please. Madam Chair, we have no respondents in queue.
Okay, thank you. Any written comment, Ms. Cicchetti?
No written comments on this item.
All right, well, colleagues, is there a motion on this item?
I move to adopt the staff recommendation.
All right, a motion's been made to adopt the
Second.
staff recommendation by Vasquez, a second by Controller Yee, and let's call the roll.
The motion is to adopt the 2022 state assessed property roll as presented by staff. Chair Cohen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer?
Aye.
Member Gaines?
Aye.
Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Controller Yee?
Aye.
Excellent, motion passes unanimously. Ms. Cicchetti, call the next item.
The next item on the agenda today is F1A, Other Tax Program Non-Appearance Matters, Property Tax Matters, Board Roll Changes. 2019 and 2020 board roll changes of private railroad cars. Contribution disclosure forms are not required pursuant to Government Code Section 15626. This is a constitutional function, and this matter is being presented by Mr. McCool and Ms. DiNapoli.
Good morning, Chair Cohen, honorable members. I'm Pamela DiNapoli, manager of the State Assessed Properties Division, Field Appraisal Unit, and Board Roll, and I'm here with Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties. We would like to bring before you the roll changes for private rail car. They're to correct an assessee reporting error. For private railroad car assessee 6336, Chevron Phillips Chemical LP. They contacted our staff and informed us that they had made an error in their 2019 and 2020 property statement filings, which resulted in an overassessment for both years. Staff have reviewed the documentation provided by the assessee and have verified the reporting error. I ask for the board's adoption of these two rule changes, and Mr. McCool and I are available for any questions you may have.
Questions, colleagues? All right, seeing no questions, thank you. Ms. Cicchetti, let's go to public comment.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For comment by phone, press 10, please. Madam Chair, we have no respondents in queue.
All right. Ms. Cicchetti, do we have any written comments?
No written comments on this item, thank you.
All right, is there a motion on this item? Motion been made to move the staff recommendation by Controller Yee, second by Mr. Vasquez. Let's call the roll.
The motion is to adopt the 2019-2020 board roll changes of private railroad cars as recommended by staff. Chair Cohen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer?
Aye.
Member Gaines?
Aye.
Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Controller Yee?
Motion passes unanimously.
Passes unanimously.
All right, looks like we're on a roll. All right, Ms. Cicchetti, please call the next item. We're going to do a quick change out.
Yes.
Ready? All right.
The next item is K1A, Executive Director's Report, Organizational Update, Report on the status of pending and upcoming organizational priorities. This matter is being presented by Ms. Stowers.
Wonderful. Ms. Stowers, hello, good morning.
Good morning, Chair Cohen and honorable members. I'm Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Members, for today's report, I will provide an update on the board's meeting minutes from the May and June board meetings, a brief follow-up from the California Mortgage Relief presentation at last month's board meeting, and then I will highlight several upcoming meetings of note. Up first, members, as you know, we have pulled the approval of the May and June board meeting minutes from today's agenda. As part of our strategic plan, we are working on modernizing and standardizing many of our policies and processes. We have recently completed an internal review of the board meeting minutes policies and procedures with consideration of the board's governance preference as stated in the board's governance policy and parliamentary rules of order. As such, we found opportunities to streamline and standardize the way in which the meeting minutes are presented. Our goal is to provide a consistent, straightforward approach, similar to the Franchise Tax Board, the Commission of State Mandate, and other agencies, focusing solely on the actions of the board. We are in the final stages of the review to ensure our policy meets all legal requirements and best practices. Once finalized, the board's May and June meeting minutes will be revised consistent with the standards of Robert's Rule of Order. The minutes for the May, June, and July board minutes will be presented to the board for your approval at the August board meeting.
Thank you.
Members, next item to follow up on is a board requested item from the June board meeting. During last month's presentation on mortgage relief program at the board meeting, Chair Cohen asked that we look into placing a link on the Board of Equalization website so that visitors and stakeholders would have easy access to the information on this important program. I am pleased to report that Mr. Kim, our communication chief, has added a link to our page under external tax resources. Finally, members, I would like to highlight a few important dates on the horizon. First, the upcoming 2022 Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing is set for August 30th, 2022 as part of the board meeting. This year's meeting will allow for stakeholders to participate both in person and by phone. Members of the public also have the opportunity to submit comments in advance. The hearing provides for taxpayers, county assessors, and other stakeholders to provide comments on items discussed in the most recent Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report, as well as present ideas, concerns, and input on the quality of the agency's services related to the State Board of Equalization administration of its programs. Mr. Thompson and Ms. Kim have provided an outreach tool to each of your offices. The purpose of this toolkit is to assist the board members and their staff to reach the broadest range of taxpayers and stakeholders in their respective equalization districts. In providing this toolkit, we are beginning to implement USC's primary marketing recommendation as a result of the board's leadership. Ms. Thompson will provide more information on this item in her upcoming presentation. Other meetings I would like to note. On August 1st to August 4th, the Northern California Assessors Association will hold its 2022 regional conference. I will be attending the conference and making brief introductory remarks. I look forward to attending the meeting with our partners at CAA. Also with this conference, please note that the last day to register for the conference is today, July 26th. Next, October 19th, we will hold our annual meeting with assessors. Staff is working with the chair's office to finalize the details for this meeting. And finally, members, in November 14th, the 120th Annual CAA Conference will be held. I will continue to keep your offices up to date on the details of these upcoming events. Members, that concludes my presentation, and the management team will provide updates on projects and operation priorities when their turn comes. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if there's any questions. Colleagues, here, Mr. Schaefer?
Ms. Starza, do we know the location of these upcoming conferences? That was something that was a little bit in doubt at our pre-briefing conference.
The one coming up on August 1st is going to be in South Lake Tahoe, California. That is the Northern California Assessors Association. It's October 1st to October 4th. The one coming up in November, on November 13th, that is the annual CAA conference. We do not know the location as of today.
Thank you.
August 1st through the 4th.
Yeah, August 1st through the 4th. Yes, that's in South Lake Tahoe.
Or Northern California, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, anyone down here? Okay, thank you. Please continue.
The next item is K1B. Executive Director's Report, extension of time to complete local assessment roll, report on tax extensions for the counties of Calaveras, Colusa, Kings, Napa, Plumas, San Benito, Solano, and Tulare to complete and submit the 2022 local assessment roll pursuant to Revenue and Tax Code 155. This matter will be presented by Ms. Stowers.
Members, Revenue and Taxation Code 616 requires county assessors to annually complete their local assessments roll by July 1st. Section 155 provides that the Board of Equalization or the Executive Director may extend by 30 days the deadline for any official act by the assessors. In the case of public calamity, the deadline may be extended by 40 days. Section 155 also requires that the Executive Director inform the Board of any such extensions at the next regular meeting. This report is to inform you that Calaveras, Colusa, Kings, Napa, Plumas, San Bernardino, Solano, and Tulare County Assessors have requested and been granted a 30-day extension for completing their 2022 local assessment rolls. Members, this concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on my right, down here? No? Any questions about staffing and recruitment, Mr. Gaines? Usually you like to ask questions about that, no? Okay. All right.
I, in our pre-board meeting, got a real nice review. So
Okay.
I think things are moving along, and
I agree.
we're on top of it. Thank you.
I agree. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I don't think I'm missing anything.
Okay, thank you, members. I'm going to stay here.
Okay.
The next item is K1C, Executive Director's Report, Operational Priorities, report on the status of the operational priorities. This matter will be presented by Ms. Stowers.
Good morning, members. Yvette Stowers here, Executive Director, standing in for our Chief Deputy Director. Today, I will provide a brief report on the agency's operational priorities and projects. The first item is our recruitment. Since our last meeting, we have filled 3 positions, 2 vacancies with promotion of internal candidates, and the remaining position was filled with a professional new to state services. Our remaining vacancies are in active recruitment, and we continue to make meaningful progress in our goal to reduce vacancies using efficient and timely merit hiring practices. Lastly, as the safety of our employees is the utmost importance, BOE continues to follow all public health and CalHR directives, adhere to all recommended COVID-19 preventive measures, and continue to monitor the self-testing program to ensure compliance. We provide staff up-to-date information regarding regarding prepared to immediately implement changes, we provide staff up-to-date information regarding current COVID-19 guidance and procedures, and the management team is prepared to immediately implement any changes that may occur related to the health and safety of our employees. Members, this concludes the report on the agency's day-to-day operational priorities. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
If I could.
Yes.
Yes,
please.
I kind of fibbed to you, Chair Cohen.
Please.
I fibbed to you. I apologize.
Oh, you changed your mind?
Because
Did
I
you
do
have
want to
some
make some
questions?
comments.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah, just because I want to clarify, we've done a great job in terms of the vacancies and getting those down. But our agency, in my opinion, is very efficiently run. And that's why I keep wanting to make sure that we're fully staffed, because it's not like we're so lean that we need every position filled. And I know that takes time, and we've got people who are retiring, we've got people that are being promoted within, but then it creates a vacancy underneath. So I just want to, really thank you for continuing on that charge and filling those positions.
Thank you, Member
Great.
Gaines, and yes, we are very efficient, sometimes too efficient, because we continue to take on more and more workload without
Absolutely.
truly documenting it, and
Well, we've
could
got
result
Prop
in
19,
gaps.
right?
Yeah.
So that's created a whole
Prop
other
19 is an
set
excellent
of problems.
example.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
A question, are we still requiring people to come into the office 3 days a week?
We require them, under our telework policy, we require them to come into the office 2 days a week.
2 days a week, okay,
They get to telework 3 days a week.
okay. And I've noticed that other agencies, like the Franchise Tax Board, have changed their requirements to report to the office. Have we considered amending hours?
Yes, I have spoken with the franchise tax board. I think they were a little bit more lenient on the return to work, and they are 1 day a week.
Okay,
We are at 2 days a week. We are constantly monitoring the COVID-19, and as the situation increases, if necessary, we will change. And again, make sure that our employees are healthy and safe, and if necessary, go to 1 day a week.
okay, Mr. Eppolite, is there something you wanted to add?
I was just going to add, because of COVID concerns, it was down to 1 day a week.
Understood, yes, yes. And so I'm curious whether or not the current, there's a new subvariant out there that's very contagious. And I was wondering if we are making any modifications to our policy due to the highly contagious variant that's out.
We are, evaluating the policy right now, and we always inform the employees that if they feel sickly in any way or fashion, please stay home. Most of them, or all of our employees have the ability to work from home, so they will stay home if they're sick. We will continue to provide masks and testing
Okay,
and accommodate as necessary.
all right, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other, yes, Mr. Vasquez?
Just one last comment, and you mentioned it earlier in one of your reports about the minutes, and I know we've had some conversations about it. I was just wondering, is there a policy you're looking to bring back to us, or is that something that you're still working on, in terms of what you're looking in the future, in terms of the standard?
We're still working on it. It is pretty much for the minutes to be standardized to reflect board action and to have limited narrative. For an example, when I do a report, it would say that the executive director filed a report and she discussed items 1, 2, and 3, but it won't give a summary of everything that I did.
To be a little bit more transparent,
Yeah,
basically.
we want to be transparent, but we also are concerned with the volume. In the past, in the recent past, we've been giving more description of what was said, and that description could be subject to interpretation and may not be accurate, so we would like to move away from that. but we're also concerned with incorporating so many exhibits. When we incorporate all these exhibits, the volume of the minutes, what we have to bond and retain is coming to be a little bit more than what we can manage. So we are looking at our record-keeping requirements with respect to how long we have to keep the minutes, but we're also looking to say, well, is it necessary to, again, include the exhibits if the exhibit was already part of the public agenda notice? And then we also understand there are some preferences from legal when we're doing rulemaking to include the exhibit in the minutes, because when it goes to the Office of Administrative Law, they will refer to the minutes to confirm that that's the regulation that the board adopted. So with your permission, I would like to move forward with the policy as outlined. If you like, I can bring it back to the board and obtain your approval as well.
I would appreciate that. I don't know
Bring it
about
back to
other
the board?
members.
Okay.
That'd be
Duly noted. I would bring the policy back to the board. I will have it written up, sent to you guys via email for your consideration at the August board meeting.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I want to go back to just a personnel matter.
Before we go forward, can we take a motion on that item, please?
Oh,
Sure, I'll move it if we need to move it, yeah.
I will,
Hold on, can you state the motion?
Yes, my motion would be that it would be a request of our executive director to bring, or to give us a copy of the policy she's looking to implement in terms of what would be the standard for our minutes moving forward.
I would second that.
All right, so are we clear on what policy we're talking about? We're talking
Well,
about,
I don't know what the policy is, that's what my question is.
okay.
I hope, if it isn't clear, my motion is to get a copy of whatever that policy is to us before the August meeting, so at the August meeting,
We're prepared
we
to
come
vote.
prepared to discuss it or to approve it.
Understood. Could you share with us the title of the policy?
It would be the board meeting minutes policy.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So a motion has been made by Mr. Vasquez, and a second has been made by Mr. Schaefer. Please call the roll.
The motion
on this
is...
motion. This motion is to request.
Request for the executive director to convene the board meeting, a copy of the minutes policy to provide the board meeting minutes policy. Chair Cohen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Schaefer. Member Gaines. Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Mr. Deputy Controller Eppolite.
Aye.
Great. This motion passes unanimously. Ms. Stowers?
Just nodded instead of spoke.
Ms. Stowers, did you want to add something?
No, I don't want to add anything. I have one more report, and I do want a point of order. Vice Chair Schaefer, I don't believe that the clerks were able to hear your vote. They were unable to hear your vote.
Oh, yes, that's because I nodded rather than spoke. I'm now speaking.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is that a yes?
Yeah, that's a aye, yes.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Yeah, we need it for the record before we can
Yes,
transcribe it. Thank you, sir.
And
Okay.
we'd like to go to the AT&T moderator as well because of the vote.
Thank you.
AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, for comment on phone, press 10, please. And we do have some queuing up. Be just one moment while we gather a name. Okay, we're going to Kimberly Labella. Your line's open. Please go ahead.
Please let the line operator. We're going to
I'm
move
sorry,
to...
say again, Madam Chair?
Please discontinue the line.
Okay, line is dropped.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is K2A, Other Administrative Matters, Executive Director's Report, Prop 19 Implementation Project. Report on the status of the agency's Prop 19 Implementation Project. This matter is going to be presented by Ms. Stowers.
Okay. And Ms. Stowers, before we continue on this new matter, I just want to go back to the personnel matter that we just discussed a little bit. And I just want to say that I think it's important to make sure that although you and your staff continue to operate at a high level, I want to make sure that you have the resources that you need, the budget that you need in order to do so. So just don't want to outpace ourselves with that regard.
Thank you, Chair Cohen, for that support.
Okay, you may finish with your presentation.
This is my last one.
Okay.
Again, I'm Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Today, I will provide an update on our Proposition 19 implementation project. A high-level plan is attached to today's agenda. I am happy to report that the status of BOE's implementation of Prop 19 is green. The BOE has a dedicated web page regarding Prop 19, which can be accessed from our home page. The web pages include guidance, frequently asked questions, related legislation, and additional resources to assist taxpayers. As of July 25th, our Prop 19 webpage has received approximately 355,000 unique external page views since we launched the page in November 2020. This includes an additional 12,300 unique external page views since the last report in June of 2022. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your presentation. Anyone else? Mr. Vasquez, yes.
I just wanted to thank you and staff, because I know we've been coming at you pretty hard on this Prop 19, and the staff has really responded well, especially from many of our constituents that have raised these issues. And for those that are listening and maybe watching, if there's something that we've missed or something else that's come up, we really appreciate any kind of feedback we can get from the public, because I think we've done a pretty good job on continually updating this live document. So I just wanted to thank you all.
Thank you, Member Vasquez, and I would say thank you on behalf of the team as well, who's really behind the scenes doing all that heavy lifting.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cicchetti?
The next item is K2A, Other Administrative Matters, Communication Chief's Quarterly Report, a report on the status of the BOE communications. This item will be presented by Mr. Kim.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Chair Cohen and honorable members. My name is Peter Kim. I'm the BOE's Chief Communications Officer. I'm actually going to take this off. Excuse me. Today, I'll provide a brief overview of the Communications Department and a look back at some major highlights and accomplishments of the department in 2021 and the first half of 2022. As outlined in the memo attached to the agenda, the Communications Department is headed by myself, the Chief Communications Officer, and I report to the Chief Deputy Director. Additionally, I consult with and advise the Executive Director, the Executive Management Team, and the Board on all BOE tax programs and business-related issues. The department is responsible for communications with the media, external stakeholders, and the general public to provide all BOE audiences with accurate, consistent, and timely information. The department also manages the content of the main page for the BOE website and the BOE's intranet site, BOE's official social media accounts, certain forms and publications, and other communications-related tools. Finally, the Chief Communications Officer serves as the principal spokesperson for the agency and issues agency news releases or news advisories. Members, now I'd like to provide a brief look back at some of the major highlights and accomplishments of the department in 2021 and the first half of 2022. As you know, the BOE website is a critical tool in communicating and providing essential and up-to-date information to stakeholders and the general public. The website went through a refresh in 2021, and we have also established additional web pages such as dedicated information on Proposition 19 and COVID-19, and enhanced our About Us webpage with the addition of the BOE's organization chart and information on the Executive Director. Through the Board's leadership, we also recently added the Translate button to offer translation to non- or limited English-speaking individuals. As the inaugural Chief Communications Officer for BOE 2.0, another aspect of communications that was a top priority was reactivating our social media presence. The department was successful in verifying BOE's social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. BOE also reactivated its LinkedIn account to assist with promoting career opportunities and engaging with job seekers and current employees. In 2021, there were approximately 70 social media posts featuring upcoming board meetings, Proposition 19 updates, career opportunities, disaster relief, news releases, important deadlines, and other general information about the BOE. Utilizing social media has greatly expanded and enhanced communications, transparency, and further outreach. The department is also continually working to standardize and update public-facing BOE forms and publications so that they are consistent and contain the most up-to-date information. In addition, the department is in charge of coordinating the publication of the BOE's annual report. I am also pleased to report that the department facilitated the translation of the Proposition 19 fact sheet into Spanish, and the memo attached to the agenda today also lists some of the other publications the department helped facilitate. Finally, the department has spearheaded other communications-related tools, such as the public service announcement for the 2021 Taxpayers' Bill of Rights hearing, BOE-branded virtual backgrounds, and implemented and modernized agency staff email signatures. Before I conclude, I wanted to provide a brief look forward. In the coming months, the department will focus on further improvements to the BOE website, including launching a dedicated website for career opportunities to assist with recruitment. In addition, the department will be facilitating the translation of the Proposition 19 fact sheet into simplified Chinese and begin the process of translating the Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Office's updated information sheets into Spanish. Members, this concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. I realize this is your first official presentation to this body. I'm happy to
Yes.
see you. I'm glad you were able to come and make this presentation. Ms. Stowers, thank you for honoring our request, and want to also recognize Melissa, who's homesick today, but who's also kind of made the suggestion to bring you forward to talk about it instead
Sure.
of just reading your reports, but you kind of breathing life into them, because you're the one that's on the forefront of responding. It's not just you. You don't have a staff, correct?
Yeah, it's just a staff of myself, but I'm proud to work with a lot of my teammates, and they've been assisting me quite a bit. So, yeah, it's teamwork.
When I was reading the board packet a couple days ago, I was shocked to find out that the social media platform hadn't been touched since 2017.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I
that's-
believe once the board was restructured, there was no one in my position prior to me coming, so it was vacant for about 2.5 years, and so I'm proud that we're reactivated that and just have a social media presence now.
Absolutely,
so,
and a great presence
yeah.
that is. You do a lot of recruiting via the social media. How
Yes.
has that yielded? Have we gotten any talent?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know specifically if they have resulted in specific hires, but I do know that it's a tool that we wanted to leverage, and I know in my report I did discuss that we plan to have a specific webpage just on career opportunities, just to enhance the recruitment efforts that the agency is working on. And so it's just a all-hands approach to leverage all of the tools we have. I know that we've, done some publications on specific entry-level classifications, and we've promoted them through social media. So we're hoping that it really produces a lot of good results. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Colleagues,
Thank
any
you.
questions? Mr. Vasquez? Mr. Vasquez, hold on. Mr. Schaefer, we're going to get to Mr. Vasquez.
First of all, thank you for your report, Mr. Kim. And as you're talking about obviously reactivating and getting into the website, I was wondering if I'm kind of more interested in kind of a how-to link or page. There's something almost like a checklist, because I know a lot of folks that we get calls on this whole intergenerational wealth transfer and just the welfare exemption as well. Have we come up with it, or if you have any thoughts on maybe some kind of a checklist that where they can just check off so they know what they're entitled to or what they don't or may qualify for, basically.
Yes, thank you for that question, Member Vasquez. I know you've raised this issue. I know that we've had some discussions with the staff, and I will go ahead and talk with the staff again to see if there's something we could do similar to that, and then circle back with your office.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. You spend virtually all of your time in Sacramento, or do you get to send out of town sometimes?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question, Vice Chair Schaefer. Yeah, I'm based in Sacramento, so I'm primarily up here, yes.
Yeah. Well, now that we have you, I want you to know that you are a state figure, not just a Sacramento figure. We're not mayor and city council. And if there is a convention of media executives like yourself that is taking place in San Diego or in Los Angeles, you should pipe up and let them know that you'd be available to be a speaker. And maybe, if you are chosen to appear, if it's in San Diego, I'd be pleased to appear with you and introduce you maybe. Yeah, there are major television and radio operations in Southern California where most of the people have no clue what the Board of Equalization is about. If they are set up to interview people like yourself on what all this Board of Equalization is about and what they do, I think you're very prepared to do a little 30-minute interview or whatever. I want them to know that you're around. I know you're around, but it's more important that they know you're around, and if they invite you down there, I want to see that there's a budget to send you down there. We're proud of you, and we want to let everybody know you're here.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, I agree with Member Schaefer's comments. I think to the degree that we can continue communicating our message and explaining what we do is helpful. Our constituents need to know what we do and what sort of issues we can address for them. And I think we're probably all of us as members are doing that to the degree that we can in our districts, but
Sure.
You've got a bigger megaphone in terms of the ability to get that message out, whether it's like social media, for instance, I think is a great opportunity. The questions that Chair Cohen had about hiring, I think, were right on, and I'm just wondering if we could have our executive director kind of track that. It'd be nice to know as we get these recruits and we're interviewing them, just to ask the question, how did you find out about the job opening position? And it can only help that we're putting it on social media. So that's awesome. Also, you mentioned the announcement of taxpayer rights meeting, and it's something that we've talked about a lot in the past. But are there new ideas that you have in terms of how we can get that message out to the taxpayers?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Member Gaines. Yesterday, actually, I did send an outreach toolkit to you and your staff because I know that there was some suggestions that I have a bigger megaphone, but we, as the BOE, we have a unique advantage, which is that we have 5 constitutionally elected officials that spearhead the agency, and so you guys are really the ambassadors. And so with that, in recognition of that, we did send out the toolkit. It included social media graphics, some talking points, the PSA, e-blast language, things that you could leverage because you guys, the board, is really the ambassadors, and you guys have the best pulse of your constituency. And so I wanted to provide that toolkit to you. In terms of the agency,
Appreciate that.
Yeah. In terms of the agency outreach, of course, we are going to make some updates to the BOE website to feature the Bill of Rights hearing in the month of August. As you're well aware of, Lisa Thompson just finished her PSA, and we're going to be reaching out to different stakeholders and taxpayer association groups to assist with, or request to assist with us in terms of reaching out and just getting the message out there. so that they could participate in the hearing later in August.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great, wonderful. And then, just to conclude, the translate button, I know that, this has been an issue that's been discussed for quite a while, and Member Vasquez has really vocalized it, and it's nice to see that we have that feature available. How is that working? Are we getting feedback from folks? Have we had any glitches? Is it working in more than one language? I think we were talking about the limited aspect of some of the languages that we could provide, so I wasn't sure where we were on that.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Member Gaines. We've implemented it for, I think, a little over a month, and so, I think we're going to do a look back after about 3 months to see what type of activity has transpired in the 3 months, to see what type of languages folks are looking at, what type of tools that they would like, and so we have the capability to search the analytics. So I'll be taking a look at that to see, and then I could definitely update the board on that.
And that's multi-language, right?
Yeah, I believe we have 7 or 8 languages
Okay.
that folks could use to translate material on our website, yes.
Could we get an update, not now, but in the future, in terms of what those languages are?
Yes,
That'd
I
be
will
helpful.
definitely
Yeah,
include
great.
that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. I appreciate that. You definitely brought something to my attention that I want to just reaffirm, and I think that it's important for you to report back to us on the analytics so we know exactly where we are. I also want to say the website updates, they look good, the look and the feel of the new website, the new particular pages for our respective offices really are, they're more dynamic, as opposed, they're very static and stale. But I love the new look and the feel. Also, just want to also direct my comments to you, Director Stowers. I'm wondering if we could do a better job of communication, right? Not only communicating what we're doing here to taxpayers and taxpayer advocates, but also to the members of the legislature. And one thing that I'm hearing, and I think you heard it too, you were on our regional call, our District 2 call with the assessors, and you heard how there is some miscommunication of lawyers in particular that are advising their clients on how to deal with the new law that Prop 19 has brought around. So making sure that we have important information out there is, the important information, the changing information out there is I think, critical. I'm wondering if it's time for us to create an outreach / communications work group that will facilitate all of our offices working together so that it's a little bit more of a coordinated, we're a little bit more streamlined in hearing what's happening across the entire state. So, we conduct regular quarterly meetings with our assessors. I'd love to know what's happening in Vasquez's districts, or Gaines' district, or Schaefer's district. And, outside of organizing something myself, that wouldn't be appropriate. But if we were able to have like a work group that would tell me what's happening across the entire state, what are the assessors are feeling, what are they seeing, what are our advocates seeing and experiencing. So that is something that I wonder if you guys your office would be willing to work with us on. Maybe come back to us with some recommendations, but I think this is the start of something that's very valuable, and I'd like to continue it.
Thank you, Chair Cohen, for
Yes,
that
ma'am.
request. We will definitely look into it. I have spoken to your office a couple of times regarding trying to facilitate a work group.
Okay.
And, of course, we have our Bagley Clean restrictions, but
Your bag of what?
we have our open meeting restrictions. If we have all 5 members participating, we have some legal concerns.
Yeah, of course.
But, so I'm not saying no.
You don't need to say that. I'm not suggesting anything
Okay.
outside of the law. That's a given.
Okay.
So, but moving forward, in a safe environment, we've got work groups
Yes.
already established. We know that we can do it without any violations of any Bagley Keene. So what I'm proposing is if there's consideration for another work group to organize.
I understand what you're saying. You're talking about a work group like we're having tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That is definitely feasible.
Okay.
And that is something that we will work on in partnership with your office. And similar, like we did with the toolkits, I want to acknowledge, Mr. Kim and Ms. Thompson did an excellent job with the toolkit.
That's great.
But I want to let you guys know it was done in collaboration where your office took the leadership role on that, so thank you very much.
Well, also, I want to just also acknowledge Mr. Vasquez, because this is rightly in line with the strategic plan that we've been working on, that is our base on how we're growing, how we are continuing to do our job, and it aligns very nicely with your strategic focus when it comes to communication. Again, bridging off of what the students from USF, USC, what they came and they presented to us a couple months ago. Again, so communication is absolutely key and helping us get our value add out there, but also getting the information that's relevant to taxpayers.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, and you think about fire season too in your district. I mean, we want to make sure that I'm looking at you, Gaines, when I say your district. We also want to make sure that people know what resources are available. The
Right.
Board of Equalization has a wealth of resources for victims who have lost their property. So,
I agree. And
Mr. Kim, you got a lot of work ahead of you, buddy.
Yeah, we have a lot to
Thank
do.
you.
So why don't we develop a skeleton of a work group and present it back to you, Ms. Chair, Ms. Cohen, and see how it works for you.
That'd be wonderful. I'd love that proposal.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, ladies. All right, Mr. Keddy.
Could I reiterate just?
Yes, please.
You brought up a great point about legislative communication. So I'm just wondering, as we bring this forward on a future workshop, if we could, like you're, I think, suggesting, is get something structured. You know, when I served in the legislature, there were always legislative days for industries. So you'd have like the doctors come in one day, and then you'd have maybe transportation another day, insurance, whatever the industry was, they would have their day and they would do a lobbying effort. And I'm just wondering if maybe we could just dig into that and figure out in a more structured manner what we would do in terms of our communication with the legislature on an annual basis. And of course, we've got Mr. What is it, Weatherby? Yeah, sorry. I should know that right off the top. But, you know, he's coordinating all that. He's watching what's happening within the legislature. But I think just to say hello, this is what we're doing at the BOE. This is the progress that we've made on Prop 19. These are the issues that we're addressing with the Assessors Association would be helpful because we still have an education process within the legislature itself, right? I mean, we have the challenge with our own constituents, but it's so key that we have that line of communication open, and we've made strides in that area, but I think it could be formalized.
More formal of when we're going to actually go down to the Capitol and provide an overview of the different issues, so.
Yeah, and we
They have a
could
good
probably
idea.
coordinate with our own staff.
Exactly.
And then members could go over for certain offices where they have relationships with folks, and it would be helpful.
I think I understand.
Or speak to caucuses or whatever.
I will
Yeah.
put together a high-level plan and then pass it back up to the members to make sure I'm capturing what you're saying.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's keep going. Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Thank you.
Did we want to take a motion on that item?
Yes, let's take a motion on that item. I'll make a motion. Right. I'll make a motion that we request that the executive director bring a proposal back to this body that will detail a work plan for, what's the word I'm looking for? Communication. Outreach? A work group for communication and outreach. Thank you very much. Yes.
Second that.
Could we include legislative, just to,
Yes, this is a motion just to put together
Yeah.
a work group. But
Right.
within the work group, we will definitely
Yes.
explore legislative, stakeholders, our partners, the full universe of folks that we interact with. So
Second.
that's my motion. Is there a second to that
Second.
motion?
yeah.
A second by
Yeah.
you, Mr. Gaines, second
Yeah.
made by Mr. Gaines. Thank you very much. And Mr. Keddy, could you please
I'm
call
going to go
the-
out to the AT&T moderator first.
Thank you.
AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For questions or comments by phone, please press 1 then 0. Madam Chair, we have no respondents in queue at this time.
All right, thank
Actually,
you.
we do have one in queue at this moment.
Oh,
Just a second while we grab the line number. Sorry for the wait. Okay, and we'll go to the line of Mary Baker. Please go ahead.
This is actually Kimberly Labella, and I don't want to be shadow banned from this meeting. And I deserve to make public comments as a stakeholder and a taxpayer in the Board of Equalization. And I don't appreciate the moderator hanging up on me. I have public comments to make based upon the agenda of the personnel matters.
okay, make your comment.
I'm sorry, Chair Cohen, the speaker is talking about personnel matters. There are no personnel matters on this agenda, so public comment on that
It's
would be
Agenda
inappropriate.
K1A, Agenda K1A, Agenda K1A, as far as vacancies.
No, this is on, this,
The comment,
the public comment that we're discussing right now, caller, is on
the
the,
public comment, hashtag me too. I'm out on medical leave because I was terminated. I'm an
this is a
associate
personnel
property
matter.
appraiser,
If we can have
and I
the
have
speaker cut
knowledge
off
of
at this point,
board
it's not an
that this-
appropriate
the
discussion
property
on this
assessment
item.
taxes is
AT&T
fraudulent.
moderator, please cut the line.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My apologies, Chair Cohen, but it was not an appropriate public comment for this
Let me just
particular
ask a
item.
question, just in abundance of transparency. How do we know what she wanted to talk about? Because we didn't give her an opportunity to talk about it, so.
On the,
How did you know there was a personnel matter, I guess is my
because
question.
in her comments, I was listening for her comments, and
Mm-hmm.
she started talking about a personnel matter and the fact that she was not on leave, and again, does not relate to the public
So-
comment on this particular motion, which is what the public comment right now is for.
Understood.
So,
Understood, okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, Ms. Cicchetti, seeing that there was no public comment relevant to the subject matter.
I'm going to take the roll.
Yes, please, thank you.
Chair Cohen,
Yes.
Vice
Aye.
Chair Schaefer,
Yes.
Aye.
Member Gaines, Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Epelite.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item is K3A, Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office Report, Operational Update.
Thank you. Ms. Cicchetti, before you call that item, can we just take a 2-minute recess? I want to
Yes,
I
of
need to take a
course.
recess. Thank you.
We will go into recess for 10 minutes.
No, we don't need 10 minutes,
Nope.
just 5 minutes.
5 minutes
Yes.
recess? Okay.
Thank you. All right, we're at recess. It's 11:25 now. Thank you.
3A, Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office Report, Operational Update. Update on the activities, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, including Prop 19, education, outreach, and other matters. This matter will be presented by Ms. Wing, and she is, oh, no, it looks like Ms. Thompson is here. And we are going to do it via a hybrid method.
Great. Ms. Thompson, hello, nice to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair Cohen and honorable board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and I'm here to provide you with an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office and the Proposition 19 Education and Outreach to keep you informed. First, I would like to share with you some statistics on the number of completed cases by the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office last month, and to provide some insight on those cases. This month, attached to the public agenda, a notice is a memorandum from our office to the executive director reporting the number of cases that were completed by our office by board member district, as well as administrative versus evaluation category, and by topic areas within those categories. In June 2022, we completed 43 cases. 9 were in board member Gaines's district, 10 were in board member Cohen's district, 16 were in member Vasquez's district, and 8 were in board member Schaefer's district. Of the 43 cases, 13 were in the administrative category and 30 in the evaluation category. The administrative category includes topics such as creating and mailing of tax bills, refunds, penalty cancellations, defaulted taxes, access to data, special assessments, or direct levies on the property tax bill. The valuation category includes topics such as changes in ownership, new construction, decline in value, appraisal methodology, exclusions, exemptions, as well as actual enrollment and value, general property taxation, and assessment appeals. With respect to the administrative category, and it's 13 in total, 1 pertained to access to data, 6 pertained to delinquent or defaulted property taxes, 1 involved penalties, 3 pertained to refunds, and 2 involved special assessments. With respect to the valuation category, and it's 30 in total, 2 pertained to assessment appeals, 7 pertained to change in ownership, 1 involved decline in value, 1 involved enrollment of values, 10 pertained to exclusions from reassessment, and 3 involved exemptions. The remaining 6 involved general property taxation. Excuse me. To provide some additional insight on the specific types of exclusions and exemptions, I offer a further breakdown. For the 10 cases involving exclusions from assessments, 6 pertain to the parent-child transfer exclusion, and 3 pertain to the base year value transfer exclusion for persons age 55 and over, and 1 pertained to base year value transfer exclusion for disabled persons. 3 of the 6 parent-child exclusion cases occurred during current law of Proposition 19, and 2 fell under prior law of Proposition 58, since the transfer occurred before the February 16, 2021 effective date for Proposition 19's intergenerational exclusion provisions. The remaining case involved property owned by a legal entity for which the parent-child exclusion doesn't apply, regardless of whether it's during current law of Proposition 19 or prior law of Proposition 58. With respect to the 3 cases pertaining to base year value transfers, they occurred during the time of current law under Proposition 19, and they all had concerns about not meeting the 2-year time frame to complete their base year value transfer. Replacement property must be purchased within 2 years, either before or after of the sale of the original, to qualify for a base year value transfer. The base year value transfer exclusion for disabled persons fell under prior law, Proposition 110, since the transfer of both the sale of the original and purchase of the replacement took place before the April 1st, 2021 effective date of Proposition 19's base year value transfer provisions. Excuse me. For the 3 cases involving exemptions, 2 pertained to the 2 pertained to the welfare exemption, and one pertained to the disabled veterans exemption. To provide some additional insight on the nature of those cases that our office works on to assist taxpayers, I offer some additional information on a case that our office worked on to help the taxpayer. An example of a case that our office helped resolve involved a taxpayer who contacted our office because she felt her assessment was too high, and that she believed the Proposition 13 value should be about $70,000 less than the amount that was assessed, based on the amount that property was purchased for about 20 years ago. The taxpayer indicated that she and her sister had purchased the property together about 20 years ago, and that a few years later she refinanced the property and her sister was removed from title. The taxpayer also indicated that over the last few years, she noticed that the assessed values of her property were increasing. We examined the assessed value history of the property available online through the assessor's office website and found that the assessed value increases were consistent with the inflation factor published by our agency for assessors to use statewide in calculating the factor base year value for properties. The inflation factor is based on the change in the California Consumer Price Index up to a maximum of 2% cap per year as required by Proposition 13. Our office coordinated with the assessor's office to obtain information about the property's purchase and if there were any subsequent transfers of ownership interests that were reassessed in whole or in part. The assessor's office indicated that there was 100% reassessment a few years after the property was purchased as a result of the removal of one of the joint tenants who was an original transferor. Upon review of the recorded documents and information provided by the assessor's office, we determined that the taxpayer that was contacting her office did not herself purchase the property, but instead her sister had purchased it initially and then added the taxpayer. The taxpayer was added on title after the sister had purchased it. Then, a few years after, the taxpayer's sister transferred her interest to the taxpayer. The transfer, where the taxpayer was added onto title along with her sister, did not result in a reappraisable event because the property was held in joint tenancy and the sister remained untitled. Our agency's property tax rule on change in ownership for joint tenancies, Rule 462.040, clarifies that the addition to somebody on title as a joint tenant does not constitute a change in ownership as long as the transferee remains untitled. That does, however, create original transferor status, and later transfers can result in a change in ownership. When the property was refinanced a few years later and the taxpayer's sister was removed from title, that caused reassessment of the property. By removing the sister from title, 50% interests were transferred from the taxpayer's sister to the taxpayer. However, her sister was an original transferor, and since she was no longer on title, the property was reassessed at 100%. We helped the taxpayer understand why the property was reassessed at the time which affected her base year value, and explained that the law requires the property to be reassessed at market value as of the date of a change in ownership, and that the assessor's office was correct in reassessing the property due to that transfer. We also advised the taxpayer that we had examined the property's assessment for the past 5 years and confirmed those values were the property's factored base year value, Prop 13 factored base year value. Although our interaction with the taxpayer did not result in a lower assessment, it enabled the taxpayer to understand why the property's assessment wasn't based on the purchase price paid in the early 2000s, and instead based on the market value of the property at the time she refinanced the property and her sister was removed from the title, establishing a new base year value at that time. The next item that I would like to report on to the members, to keep you informed, is on work associated with Proposition 19's education and outreach for taxpayers. In June 2022, 6 information sheets were published to help taxpayers understand tax laws and exclusions available to them. 2 information sheets pertain to the parent-child exclusion. 1 addresses current law under Proposition 19, and 1 addresses prior law transfers occurring on or before February 15, 2021. 2 pertain to the grandparent-grandchild exclusion. 1 addresses current law under Proposition 19, and the other applies to transfers in prior law, transfers occurring on or before February 15, 2021. And 2 of the information sheets pertain to base year value transfers for persons age 55 and over, 1 addressing the current law under Proposition 19, and the other addressing prior law transfers under Propositions 60 and 90, those occurring on or before March 31st, 2021. These 6 information sheets have been posted to our agency's website, and a letter to assessors has been completed by our office to publicize the issuance of the information sheets on intergenerational transfers, and the LTA is in the final stage of review. It will be issued shortly. We will also be issuing a later LTA once we publish the LTA, or excuse me, publish the information sheet on the base year value transfers for disabled persons. I will also be sharing the information about the publication of the 6 information sheets with the California Assessors Association President, Leslie Morgan, so she can notify the CAA affiliates and other assessors. I will be providing that information to her prior to next week's CAA conference, so she has that available to her. Additionally, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office completed work on a new information sheet for the base year value transfers for disabled persons under Proposition 19, as well as revised the existing publication to identify them as applicable to transfers prior to April 1st, 2021. These information sheets are in the final stages of the internal review process and will be prepared by our Forms and Publications section shortly. At future meetings, I will update the members about the status of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate information sheets so you are aware of them and they are available to taxpayers. The next item that I would like to update the members on is preparation for our upcoming Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing to be held on August 30th, 2022. Excuse me. The Communications Officer, Peter Kim, and I worked with the CDTFA media production team on a short public service announcement yesterday. The video was posted to our agency's website on the Taxpayer Bill of Rights homepage. And now that the video has been posted, there will be further outreach efforts to publicize the hearing to outside stakeholders. Additionally, the Communications Officer, Peter Kim, and I worked on a toolkit that can be used by each board member's office to help promote the hearing. The outreach toolkit was sent to each board member's office yesterday. Material in that toolkit will also be used by us to provide to other parties, such as our advisory council members, so that they can assist taxpayers and assist us in notifying other stakeholders and taxpayers about the August Bill of Rights hearing and of the opportunity for taxpayers and industries representatives to come before the elected board members to have their voices heard. Other ways that we are publicizing the hearing will be through e-blasts to TRA hearing subscriber list and also to alcoholic beverage taxpayers. There will be several e-blasts sent to each list. The TRA will also be emailing various taxpayer organizations asking them to notify their members about the hearing. Notification will also be made to our advisory council members so they can help promote the hearing. We look forward to the August 30th, 2022 Taxpayer Bill of Rights and to hearing from taxpayers and industry representatives. Finally, I wanted to share that we recently hired a new staff member in the TRA office, and we're currently working with him so he has an understanding of the role and work involved in assisting taxpayers. The new member is an assistant property appraiser, and he comes with experience from a county assessor's office. At future board meetings, the TRA office will provide further updates on the activities of the TRA office to keep you informed. And that concludes my update. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, do we have any questions for this great presentation? Yes, Mr. Gaines has a question for you, Ms. Thompson.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you very much for your presentation. And you cited the example of the sisters that had owned a home and were questioning the valuation of the property. And I'm just trying to get clarity in terms of ownership and how that impacts reassessment. So if, let's say you had the two sisters buy the property together, and then a refinancing occurred and one of the sisters bought out the other sister. Would that be a change in, that would trigger a reassessment?
So it really, depends on kind of a case-by-case basis. So, a lot of information depends how they hold title, joint tenancy versus tenants in common. But our property tax rules, we have property tax rules on both change in ownership for joint tenancy and tenants in common. So it really depends how that occurs.
Okay.
So
is that something that we might be able to provide on the website that would provide some clarity on different types of ownership of property? What triggers a reassessment, what may not? I think that could be helpful.
So I mean, the agency's website has lots of different resources available. The Change in Ownership Handbook talks about various aspects of change in ownership that are good, as well as the property tax rules on change in ownership. So there is ample information kind of to talk about the different things, what happens in them, and examples are provided in rules as well on how that works. But yeah, so a lot of that information, is there.
Could we, I'm just trying to figure out how we make it a little more front and center in terms of, when someone buys a piece of property, how many people know how to take title, right? So whether it's tenants in common or joint tenancy, I'm thinking if we would provide some sort of clarity in terms of, letting a future property owner know what the right way to take title is, because it may have certain tax implications that may ultimately hurt them or help them.
So I think it's important for to not, just to be careful about providing legal advice. Property tax is just one reason why someone does something. So that's really something that should be decided by a taxpayer, and if they choose, in consultation with an attorney. So there are implications for property tax purposes, the way somebody might take title or change ownership. It might have income tax purposes as well. So
yeah, I think
we provide information on.
I think you raise a good point.
On the assessment, our agencies, the assessment kind of things, and it does indicate consequences. So
yeah, I'm just trying to talk about the tax consequence side. I think we could present the information in such a way that's not legal advice, but it's nice to know from a tax consequence what that impact might be.
Member Gaines, Yvette Stower, Executive Director.
Yes.
A lot of this information is on our website. It may not be the easiest to find, and it may not be the easiest to understand.
Okay.
So I do see there's a need for us to see how we can communicate the rules and simplify following language without making it too simple.
That'd be great, yeah.
That is something that we are looking into, just a refresh of our website.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
And so
Something like, tax consequences of property ownership.
something easy to follow.
Something like that would just kind of have an outline for folks, because it's confusing. If someone's buying a house, I don't think they even know what that implication could be down the road. So
we can do something like that and put some caveats on there that, one, is not legal advice. We're just going to walk
Yes,
through the rules.
exactly. Great, wonderful, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Vasquez?
Just to follow up to that, thanks, Ms. Thompson, for your report. And as I was looking through it and listening to the comments, especially what Member Gaines just brought up, I know we get a lot of questions and calls from nonprofits that are having a real challenge trying to navigate. And like you said, we have a lot of information there. I'm just, if there's, and it sounds like you're looking at it and trying to figure out a way to make it maybe a little bit more user-friendly, especially for the nonprofit world, because a lot of times, at least the nonprofits that we're dealing with in LA, I know, a lot of them are underfunded, so they really don't have the expertise to understand the terminology that we're laying out there. And like you said, maybe to simplify it without really dumbing it down too much, but at least a little bit more plain English so they can understand, one, how they have to, or what they need, what documents they need to file for like the welfare exemption when they're doing affordable housing, for example.
Exactly.
That'd be real helpful.
That is something that I believe Mr.
So I can
Patty
go
has
ahead
been
and-
reporting about the welfare exemption, the refresh on that. And that is so one of our goals is to make sure that we are, the form that they have to complete is simple to understand. And that's been the main focus of that project.
I can go ahead and add something. So from the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, actually, that is one of the projects that we also plan to do is we will be drafting an information sheet on property tax exemptions available to nonprofit organizations. That topic will be done after we finish all of the Proposition 19 affected areas. And so that will cover that, not just the welfare exemption, but it will be straightforward, kind of informing taxpayers about the availability of such exemption. Because as you know, not the nonprofit community, sometimes they're not aware of it. And so that's why we think it's important to bring that to their attention, and that will provide, kind of information, simple information on, so how they could apply for like the welfare exemption. So, and direct them to appropriate resources and have just one information sheet that simple, relatively short, and then direct them to the resources. So thank you for that. So that will be done, and I'll update the members after we have, published that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Thanks for your leadership in this space. It's actually been quite exciting to see how our relationship has grown. You, at the Taxpayer Advocate's Office, and us as a board. You've just demonstrated incredible leadership. And congratulations on hiring a staff person in your department. That's exciting. The need is, I think, still very great, and I want to make sure that your office is able to respond to constituents and to proactively participate in public convenings so that every Californian knows that your office exists as well as our office exists. So, Ms. Stowers, I don't know if we can wait to receive your proposal. We gotta get on this in terms of the outreach strategy, the connection, and better coordination with our communications officer so that the Taxpayer Rights Advocate will assist us in strengthening our communications strategies as a public agency, and so that the board, not only the board, but just the general public knows exactly how we are here to serve them. So I appreciate this, again, this update. Thank you very much. Is there any other comments on this, Mr. Eppolite?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that we always have to be aware that there's differences between property tax law and income tax law, so even how title is held can result in differences between the two, so there's always that risk. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, Ms. Thompson, is there anything else?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Kennedy, let's go to public comment.
We have no written comments on this matter. AT&T operator, please let us know if there's anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, for comments, please press 1-0 at this time. Madam Chair, there are no respondents in queue.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll go to the next item.
We can go to the next item, but before that, I wanted just to check in. It's 11:56. I think it's time for our lunch. I think that's what's on our schedule. So I'd like to take a 45-minute lunch break, if that's all right with everyone. 45 minutes. All right. Thank you. We will recess and reconvene in 45 minutes. Thank you.